Hello, everybody, and welcome to Recruitment Smarts live mid-February. This is our Valentine's edition. I don't know whether I told you that ahead of time, Dave.
You didn't know, but I'm honoured.
I am here today with one of my absolute favourite guests. Feel free to pitch any questions at Dave. Dave, I'm going to pop over to LinkedIn, check everything's okay there. If you want to let everyone know who you are, who you work for, what you do.
Yeah, we'll do. Thanks, Louise. Didn't know we were doing a Valentine's special. That's um, I'm honoured, I think. So Dave from Wave. We are a candidate attraction technology business. In short, we help recruiters attract more high quality candidates to their businesses.
Fabulous. Okay. And good news is we're streaming absolutely perfectly on LinkedIn. I'm just going to update that to say that I'm talking to you so that people can find this show. Wonderful. Okay. So today, what are we talking about?
Websites.
Fabulous. Cool. Okay. So the title for this show was The Hidden Side of Your Recruitment Website, Not Just a Branding Checkbox. Now, I've got, I think, about 6 or 7 questions I was going to ask you. If we end up diverting, of course, that's absolutely fine. Because if people do want to talk about specific things, more than happy to cover that. And if you're watching this on replay and you're thinking, I need to know more about Dave, I'll make sure I share some links in the chat and I'll activate the call to action down below in a second. So I guess, are you saying that recruitment websites can still be seen as just a branding tool rather than something which is a much more integral part of a recruiter's operations?
Yes. I think it sounds a bit like there's a dark side to a recruitment website, isn't it? The hidden side of recruitment websites. In essence, yes. I think in the last sort of few years, we've talked a lot about websites being, having to be a brand-driven exercise, which is absolutely right. But I think there's also an element where it can stay sort of almost sit too much on that side and isn't a major part of a business's candidate attraction strategy. It sort of sits as something that's nice to look at and a bit of a tick box exercise
I
sometimes.
think that's funny because I think that, I was around when websites, well, they weren't invented, they existed, but when they became, the thing that people had, and, then it was your corporate brochure online, and that was 25 years ago. I would like to think that, we're much more sophisticated in terms of, what we're asking our site to do for us. I mean, is it because there's always other places that people think they should be going for candidate attraction?
Yes, I think it is. And I don't think in some instances we've moved that far on from it being a corporate brochure that they've just got much better and they look much nicer. But there's still that element where it just sits as part of a marketing suite of
Yeah.
tools and doesn't really impact the recruiters or the consultants at all. And I think that there's one of the reasons, I mean, it does sit within marketing, and maybe that recruiters are not involved in the process of building the site. And so it's just something else that's there that gets referenced when you're, making BD calls or whatever. Go and look at our website. And there's still the tendencies to use job boards, LinkedIn on a day-to-day operational basis. That's where you're going to find your candidates and your clients from. So it's still a little bit corporate brochure like, and we haven't made that transition. When you look at kind of e-commerce, for example, the way in which e-commerce sites or a retail operation, their website is absolutely central to their performance of their business. Even if you run a shop, you've still got your e-commerce website. We're not
Yeah.
really doing that within recruitment yet. So trying to
Okay.
advocate to move that.
Two things you said there. One of them is that I don't think that any recruitment consultant would typically think about their site as being anything like an e-commerce website. And on the one hand, I think that's good because people aren't commodities. But on the other hand, it is about, someone wants something and somebody else has it. But the other interesting thing you said there was about the recruitment consultant. So I guess that if recruitment consultants individually aren't using their website as much as they should, is it because it's held within marketing, which is what you were, I think, alluding to, is that they're not allowed to?
Yes, I think just sometimes the use of it, if it's a corporate brochure, if you like, then why would they use it?
No.
They wouldn't use it at all. Traditionally, the performance of your website from a recruiter's perspective has been very poor, so it doesn't generate any leads or clients coming into your area of expertise, and it doesn't produce candidates that you're wanting to work with either, or even have access to.
Yeah.
So it's very much, and this is maybe where the title is quite interesting, because there's a whole opportunity to be able to use your website to generate leads for from a BD perspective, but also to have active candidates applying for the jobs that you're recruiting for, and that you can do something with. I mean, some websites or some people we'll talk to, they'll have people apply for the jobs that they advertise on the site. They have no idea where the applications have gone. So, there's quite a big disconnect between, if you're using LinkedIn, for example, you post a job, someone applies for that, you're very well aware of who's applied for it, or you
Yeah.
find them, you're very aware. But there's quite a big disconnect between jobs that recruiters are working on and applications that happen to come via the website. Not
Yeah.
for everyone, but
No, no.
in some cases that still happens. So recruiters typically don't bother too much.
No, I can see that. So you're on a call with a prospective client, you might say to them, check out our website, we've got some case studies, we've got this, that, and the other. But actually, I totally agree. I can't see many consultants saying to a candidate they're speaking to, check out our website, that they're probably more likely to say, keep an eye on LinkedIn and see when I next post a job that'll be relevant to you.
Absolutely. And of course, the problem with that, and I'm not saying that candidates will only ever deal with that one agency, but really, like anything, going back to e-commerce, if you've got someone on your website, you're more likely to trying to keep hold of them to get them
Yeah,
to buy something. And from a candidate's perspective, you want them to apply for the jobs that you've got on your site. If and LinkedIn is, do we do a lot of work with LinkedIn? It's great, but as a recruiter, as you're then marketing your role amongst everybody else's, because LinkedIn will just show you all the jobs. So
yeah.
really, you want them registering for job alerts, or you want them registering on your site, so you can then not control that narrative, but you can be in direct contact with them and not lose them to your competing agency because another job's popped up that they're interested in.
So how do agencies use the website to attract better candidates? And you mentioned that they're not necessarily managing the applications correctly. So you obviously, what you're talking about here is getting the right people to look at the jobs, and then what you do in the back end, I guess.
Yeah. So there's two things really, well, two sides, as you've said. You want to make sure that your website is, at its most basic level, advertising the jobs that you're working on, making sure that they're the latest jobs that you're working on as well, that it's built in a way that is, when a candidate lands on that job, if it's not for them, they can register, they can apply, they can register for further job alerts. To be able to get them on the site in the first place, and this is quite a big area where you want to be able to maybe move beyond. People talk a lot about SEO, and SEO is really important, but it's very difficult to be consistent with that or guarantee anything. We want to try and start looking at websites as mini job boards that will,
Mhm.
Google for Jobs kind of started it a little bit with driving traffic. Obviously, there's been traffic from Indeed. They kind of get switched off, but there's a lot of aggregators and traffic driving businesses that can bring traffic to your site. So you want to see it as a traffic magnet, really, to bring candidates onto that particular site. So it is then of more value to recruiters because you're going to get more candidates coming through. And then, of course, when they apply, you don't want it going into, a random inbox of someone that gets checked every 6 months. It has to be then connected to your CRM, to the recruiter or consultant that's working on that. You have to join that up. Sounds really straightforward, but it still, in a lot of businesses, doesn't happen because no one normally applies from the website. They don't really get anyone, so it's a surprise if someone turns up. So it's about getting it all connected, having it a bit more streamlined, I think is the right word. I think.
The connection with this CRM is an interesting thing because some of the recruitment agency CRMs make a really big play out of the fact that they actually will build the website for you. And that's because I guess they know that's where there's going to be job seeker traffic and they can help to influence that. But they don't all do that. Most of them don't. So if you're working with somebody who's a recruiter with a website, which has always been a brochure, and then you're helping them to work out how that can be a candidate magnet, is that integration with the CRM complicated? Is that what's stopping them?
No, I don't think it's that complicated. There are feeds and that you can kind of send both ways, typically speaking. What sometimes complicates it is when you're trying to start doing more complex things. You want different automations to happen, but on a very basic level, it should be pretty straightforward to either have your jobs from your CRM posted onto your website. That can normally happen a CRM side. If not, you can use your posting tool that you've got.
Yeah.
Maybe use Wave Tracker because it's brilliant. Others are available, I think. I'm not sure. So, and then it's about getting the candidates from the website back to the CRM. Now that's no more complicated than trying to get them from an email into your CRM. Some will go straight in, some will go into your posting tool. You've got lots of different options and they're all pretty straightforward. It's just you need to spend the time going, right, we need to make sure that all of these kind of processes all line up. And that's where having it a little bit more center to your kind of recruitment operations is more important than just going, let's build a brilliant site. It looks great. And it's up and everyone can see it, but it's not connected overly to anything, or things get missed and forgotten. Some of it's tech, some of it's process, some of it's just human, kind of doing it from a human or manual perspective. But no, it shouldn't be that difficult.
I have seen recruitment websites historically I've been involved in the judging for the NORAs, which is judging job boards from a candidate perspective. With the DJAX-R awards, they are more from slightly different judging criteria. But with the NORAs, you're looking at maybe 70 different recruitment websites. So like in the small agency one or whatever. And the amount of them who either have 400 jobs and they go back 5 years, or 3 jobs. And you're like, have you just deleted everything you've ever done before? What's the right balance there?
Well, I mean, if you're working on 3 jobs, if that's all you've got, then that's all you've got. And if you're a smaller agency that tends to work, maybe you're a solo recruiter and you only work between 4 and 8 jobs at any one time, whatever it is, then where you would build your site would be slightly different to a company that has 300 jobs. And you may want to build a site that is, brand specific. And rather than just a job listing, you've got a whole kind of almost candidate application, information. So it's kind of horses for courses in terms of what your agency is, how your agency is set up. I wouldn't advocate having old expired jobs on your site just to kind of try and boost your SEO or your job numbers, or make it look as though you've got more than what you've got. Because just irrespective of everything else, you think about the candidate experience there. Oh, I found a job and it says it's expired. from a job seeker point of view, that's a big complaint about a lot of the job boards that,
Mm.
they click on a job and then it says it's been expired. It's a negative experience. That's where you can have register for job alert. So if you've got 10 jobs, make sure that they're live. I know there's a theory around keeping old jobs on to backfill or whatever. But, again, going back to e-commerce, no one likes to buy something and then
Stock.
it's out of stock and it's not going to be in stock for another 6 months or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
You
you're
just
right.
then leave it and go and look for somewhere where you can find it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to compare, buying toothpaste to candidates applying for jobs, but just thinking about the experience from a candidate perspective, it's not great, is it?
No, no.
If you can't do that.
But I can see the appeal of showing what jobs you've previously placed, and I guess there's just a different way of doing that, isn't there? It doesn't have to be actually the job advert.
Well, yes, and that can be done in the content pages. It could be done in the case studies. It could be done in where you are asking candidates to register. These are the types of jobs that we fill. So if you're looking for this, and this, then get in touch with us, register, submit your CV or register, rather than seeing what you could have had if you turned up here 6 months earlier. You could have had this amazing job. So, but I don't think a lot of the time people have hundreds of jobs that are expired on their website on purpose. It
No.
just somewhere along the lines, the process has fallen down where old jobs are not being removed or not
No.
easily removed. And again, that's just where sometimes the process of a website, yeah, falls down a little bit because you spent all of your time, energy, and budget on building a brilliant looking site, and then 6 months in, you're not sort of taking care of the housekeeping of the site because it's difficult for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
You mentioned your job posting tool. So I guess that people who are using a job posting tool, there's something there which says we've placed it, take it down. I've got enough applications, no more, and it just gets taken down from everywhere.
Yeah. Or it can be expired after a certain period of time, when you could extend it. So, there's options there. Even if you're not using a posting tool, you should, be able to do that even if you're just posting directly on your website. And just, yeah, having that sort of housekeeping helps. And, it's not really, I wouldn't advise keeping many jobs up there that have expired as part of your job search. I suppose, just thinking about it as well, it's going to then slow down your site. Potentially, it's going to be, if you're running a search on the actual site, it's going to be throwing up expired jobs in and amongst active jobs. So if the first 10 jobs you look at say they're expired, but the 11th one is active, candidates lost interest and they've gone to your competitor or gone elsewhere. So you've lost them. So again, candidate experience is not quite there.
No, that's very poor. Okay, so my next question was going to be about the features that recruitment websites should have to kind of maximize their impact beyond branding. You said one earlier, which was this job alert thing, which you see on job boards all the time.
Yeah.
It does astonish me when I see recruitment websites without this. So what other features should they have? And was that one of them?
That was one of them. And it's quite a useful tool to have, because sometimes candidates are not quite ready yet to submit their whole CV to you. Of course, with with GDPR and people being so much more conscious around just handing out their data, they're maybe not ready yet to submit their CV just for you to keep on their system, but they are ready to give you an email address to say, if any of these jobs come up, I'm interested. So some people will have a submit your CV but not have the job alert remind me of any jobs. So I think that's a really easy one to have. And yeah, you made the point, looking at how job boards operate, you look at some of the things in which they do in order to attract candidates and get candidates interested. You can follow that process through. I think making sure that you've got a good and robust job search as well. Again, something that's a bit easier now with the likes of with AI, it's making searching for things a little bit easier. But prior to that, no one wants to really do a search for, I don't know, do a search for a warehouse a warehouse assistant, and they get served a result that's a HR director.
Yeah.
You're like, why on earth have I got this? So again, candidate experience is pretty poor, and candidates don't like poor quality result. Searches. You saw you see it on LinkedIn all the time when people are saying, I've registered to be given HR jobs, and I'm getting driver jobs.
Yeah.
They're completely a mismatch. So having a good quality job search is something else that's really useful. Making sure we talked about it being integrated well to your CRM. So if you can do that, that's really useful to make sure that you can actually have that information coming back. Some analytics, it's really useful. I know a lot of the time people don't want to pour over even more statistics and data and number and whatever, but just having an idea of who's visiting your website, what pages they're visiting is really, really interesting and useful. So you can kind of get an idea of what people think about your site. So I think probably some of those things would be, the key things that I would have. Job alerts, a decent searching functionality would probably be the two that I'd put at the top. There's probably loads of other things, but
Well, I've got another one I want to run past you. What about having a little chat bot on there? So as a job seeker, you can be saying, do you ever have jobs in Hull? And what sort of salary are the jobs? I mean, is that a lot of work? Is it worth doing?
it's not a lot of work. And we went through a little spell of having kind of live chat on, we talk about, you said about being around when websites were invented. And it's quite interesting when you think back to how websites have evolved over the years. And one of the first websites that I built for a recruitment agency that was specializing in sales had an intro. Do you remember intros? So in the same way that you would have an intro to I don't know, a trailer or whatever it is
Oh, like
to a movie.
a sting on the start. Yeah.
So it would 5, 10, 15 seconds, it would intro, welcome to so and
Oh,
so and da
I
da da da.
hated those.
And I lost my point now. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So with I was just going back down memory lane for a moment.
I like it.
So, but trends evolve through
Yeah.
through those years, and then we had loads of flash websites and scroll. Anyway, that's a different topic. Website nostalgia, because that's another topic for another day. But so yeah, live chat went through a spell of they were on everyone's sites. The challenge with them is that you have to have someone manning it. So if someone asks a question, you can respond.
Yeah.
So they then figured that actually it wasn't that much. You wanted an instant response and you didn't get one. So now we can replace it with AI, right? So that it can do it, which opens a whole another sort of series of questions around AI responding to candidates. Is that something that candidates want? Is that something that we want to go down? I think the general feel right now is that candidates don't want to be talking to an AI to say, have you got any jobs in Hull? Because the answers and the feedback isn't quite what you want at the moment. Is that going to change? I mean, we're still very early days with all of the AI kind of opportunities and the way that they're talking to candidates. But generally, and my feeling is at the minute, is that having AI running that first sort of conversation with a candidate in most instances is not going to be something that they're going to want, unless you're working in a high volume, high candidate volume area, then maybe I could see it's got a use. But for me, it's not something that I'd rush to recommend for recruiters to be jumping onto their website. But things change, don't they? As per the intros and the flash websites and the parallax scrolling and all these things that will change down later on down the line. But at the minute, I wouldn't worry too much about having that.
I think it's more likely that what we'll see is that individuals, people, humans, not even job seekers, have go-to co-pilots. So rather than you'll like to go to ChatGPT and you're going to say, if I'm looking for a job in Hull, which recruitment agencies could help me? I think it's much more likely to be that they will have already done some of this research, or what's the average salary for if I want to work at Bayer as a medical rep. What's the average salary? They won't even need to ask the agency that, because they'll be going somewhere else for that information. And then they'll be coming to you feeling well informed, whether rightly or wrongly. And I think that's probably what I think is likely to happen.
Yeah, I guess it's a really good point, isn't it? That we're probably likely to have using AI as sort of our sort of personal AI, if you like, to give us that information before we then go and interact with other people. And we don't want to necessarily communicate with other people's AI. We'll have our own. So yeah, that's an interesting view, and I think that's probably feels more comfortable, because we're all happy to use AI when we want to search something, when we want to know something. But when AI suddenly jumps out in front of us and says, no, you speak to me before you speak to them, we're like, no, I don't want to do that, because it's a people business.
Yeah. No, I think
So
you're right. Yeah, we
that's
don't want it to be the gatekeeper. We want it to be the co-pilot, which is a phrase I don't really like, but that's what we want.
yeah.
Okay, so they're the features that recruitment websites should have. So you mentioned analytics. What are the sort of ways in which recruitment agencies should be measuring the success of their site beyond this traffic and how cool it looks?
Yeah.
Is there stuff they should be thinking about?
Yeah, and it's quite interesting, because I was doing a podcast actually just recently, and we're talking about vanity metrics, likes and followers and views and whatever it is, and that's easy to get kind of sucked into that, sort of just looking at that. We've had 10,000 more people visiting our website, so therefore it must be really, it's better than what it was last month. So I think, and without trying to get too stuck in over analyzing the performance of your website, there are some key things that you want to look at. So looking at job alert engagement for a start would be pretty good. So how many people are actually registering, and then after registering, how many of those people are applying for jobs that you're sending them, so you can see whether or not there is a connection between the jobs that you're advertising and the traffic that you're attracting to your website. Because everyone's turning up looking for HR jobs, and you're working in industrial, then you're something's going wrong somewhere. You want to really look at the number of applications that are coming in, and then the quality of those, how far they've reached. So actually, a lot of it is pretty similar to how you would judge a job board, and how you judge any of the sourcing methods that you use. So applications, the quality of applications, ultimately placements, although I still think that hires and placements made, there is so much, but after what happens when someone lands in an inbox or applies for a job. So I think there's that. Yeah, I think really trying to just take a bit, almost viewing it as a bit of a like a level of job performance, I think is a really, really good start. And then the engagement in different areas. You're talking about kind of people. Often we see a lot of users engage really, really well with kind of meet the team pages. So if you've got profiles of the people that you're working with, they tend to be quite popular and quite successful. So again, looking at that, maybe looking and seeing who's then being connected. If you've got a LinkedIn connection there, who's connecting from there. So really just trying to look beyond the big numbers. But I suppose overarching this all with what do we actually want to try and achieve with the website? Do we want 10,000 people visiting the site? If that's your target, then obviously look at those, but have an objective that is similar to how you would view the performance of a job board. Plus, the candidate side and the BD side of it.
Yeah, well,
Well,
that's the thing, isn't it? Is that we've gone down this route of getting more candidates to your website, but those meet the team pages can be really good for business development. So some of this will be dual purpose. Industry insights showcase you as somebody who knows the sector to a client, but it also makes a candidate feel more confidently that you're going to have the right relationships, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we've kind of gone down the candidate side of websites, and actually, you want to use it as a BD tool, and you want to be actively converting and generating leads from your website. So again, communicating the areas that you're specialists in, communicating, kind of heading back to brand, because it is important. You want to make sure that it's an authentic representation of your business.
Yeah.
And you want to position yourself as the market expert within that particular sector that you work in. So it's a dual purpose.
It is. And also potentially attract consultants to come and work for you.
Yes. I think probably of the three, that's I would probably say has the least impact. I might be wrong with this, and whoever's listening, watching, massively correct me if I'm wrong. My feel is that, well, I mean, again, it's promoting the culture of the business, isn't
Yeah.
it? So,
Yeah.
again, everything should be about showing a fair representation of what it's like in that business. So whether or not you're a candidate or a client, or actually a recruiter, or a potential employee of the future, you should get a good idea of what sort of business am I going to be speaking to when I call these guys or go into the office.
Yeah.
And that is kind of comes full circle back into brand. So because it's still, websites are still brand led. That's still a massive purpose of the website that you've got.
Okay, so my final question to you, we talked about the past. We ought to get the way back when machine out and look at our own websites from a long time ago. Won't do that publicly. But what does the next generation of recruitment websites look like? And is it going to impact the way in which agencies work?
I think so. I think you kind of, the recruitment industry is sometimes a bit slow to move. It's quite a risk averse industry in many respects. And you just look at job boards as an example. They haven't changed. You go back to Wayback Machine, and the websites look pretty much the same. The logos change, but you've still got the search bars there. I think the future of recruitment websites will be very much more around not just something that sits on the side of the marketing team. It will be something that will be very much more central to a recruitment business's operation, from a leads perspective, from a candidate's perspective. And I think with the amount of data that we can do, building the websites, we can understand who's visiting and what they're actually doing, and therefore shape that experience for the recruiters, or for the recruitment agency, so they don't have to do it as such. They just need to know that we build a site, you build a site, and actually you're going to be bringing in clients from it, and you're going to be bringing in candidates from it, and you're going to be advertising jobs. So it's going to become a central part of your business, almost the same way in which CRMs generally are a central part to a recruitment agency's business. I see recruitment websites, or their websites, becoming not the core of that, because that still generally sits with the CRM, but it will be very much more closely aligned to the CRM. And it's no surprise, as you said, CRMs, some of them do build websites as well, because they can see that that's part of that ecosystem. So I
Yeah.
think we'll see that moving in, rather than just being something that looks great but doesn't really do much other than look great. We're going to see websites that look great and start to perform above and beyond where they've been right now. It's either
We
that
are.
or Flash and intros are coming back, and we'll
Yeah. Flash. Download this Flash thing onto your browser. We're totally over time, but I wanted to ask you one final question. I wonder whether kind of we took our eye off the ball with websites when everyone was talking about how LinkedIn was where we were going to do absolutely everything, and whether we were like, we're just going to, because people were putting, no one was blogging, they were putting everything on LinkedIn, all their jobs on LinkedIn, all the information about their companies and their outings.
yeah.
I mean, have we kind of realized that that's not where everything ought to go?
Well, I think LinkedIn and job boards, and then previous to that, Facebook, as an
Yeah,
example. I remember a few years back, someone was telling me they're not building a website anymore, but they're building, I forget what it actually was now, but you had profiles on Facebook. So it was a Facebook page. That was it. Wasn't pretty obvious. Facebook page. So we're not having a website, we're having a Facebook page and driving everything there. And I think in the last few years, we've become very, very conscious of who's owning what data and who has what control over what you've got. So there is a move now to your own data, your own platform, you're in control of your own destiny. So it's not reliant on a job board, a social media, or another platform that you've got. You want to have control of your own messaging, jobs, candidate management, the whole lot. So I think you're right. We sort of jumped to social,
yeah,
and forgot the rest.
yeah.
Um,
It's made
yeah,
me happy that, I still put everything on LinkedIn, but I like having, a core place for people to come back to. I think that's really good.
I think it's that's your little your shop window
It
now,
is.
isn't it?
Yeah.
But you want to try and move it beyond being a shop window and actually being part of the shop. I made too many references to e-commerce and
I
shop,
know. Are
whatever it
you
is.
starting a shop?
Yeah, maybe I should.
Yeah. Let's do one together.
Yeah, yeah. What would we sell? What would be in our shop?
I don't know. You're wearing a nice jumper and I'm wearing a nice cardigan, so maybe something for people who like wool.
Um, I mean, that's kind that you're saying that. Anything related to fashion is absolutely not where I'm at. So that would be an instant failure. Um, I don't know what. Maybe hair clippers. That might be something
Yeah,
like that.
that's a great idea. Dave, you've been absolutely fabulous. If people want to know more about you, I've put the Wave site in there. How do they find you?
Well, look on the Wave on the site. We could say LinkedIn, but actually we've been talking about going back to the website. Go on the website and get in touch that way. And if you get in touch, it's not going to go into an inbox that never gets responded to. So it'll find its way to me. So
Fabulous. The other thing we do is every month we have some great content from you on our newsletter, which we do share on LinkedIn as well. It goes on our website. Oh, Tony, thank you very much. It's good evening to Tony because he's somewhere slightly sunnier climes than us. We've still got about 3 hours of day left, haven't we?
yeah, but it's getting lighter, so it's
It is. Yeah, yeah. I was doing these in the pitch black in January, so this is making me happy.
yeah, we're getting there, aren't we?
Yeah, so if you want to get in touch with Dave, you can go to the Wave website. The link's down here. If you're on LinkedIn, I've put it in the chat. And like I say, you produce loads of great content. We share it. And you and I are back for another one later this year. Also, people will see you at the Agency Expo March. Yes.
Yes, they will. Yeah, well, I've got our stand there, so come and say hello. Yeah, we'll be there. So looking forward to that.
All right. Thank you all very much, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.